I'm not scared of your mom.
Ooh, you better be afraid.
He laughed straight into a child's face, certain no black woman could ever belong in special operations. To him, the world was a series of boxes, and Maya's mother didn't fit into any of them. 12-year-old Maya Ellis wasn't trying to impress anyone. She stood in the shoe aisle of a Dick's Sporting Goods at South Park Mall, chatting with her best friend Lila about school, upcoming track tryouts, and the Nike Air Maxes she'd been eyeing for months. It was an innocent Saturday afternoon, until Maya casually mentioned why they had to hurry. Her mom was finishing up a final debrief at Fort Bragg after 3 months away. Special ops schedules were unpredictable like that, and Maya didn't want to miss the surprise dinner. Lila's eyes widened. Wait, actually in the Army? Like the elite teams you see in movies? Maya shrugged, her calm demeanor masking the deep pride she felt. Yeah, she's a sergeant major. She just got back from overseas. That should have been the end of it. Kids brag, everyone knows that. But then the laugh cut through the aisle, sharp, loud, and meant to shrink. A man flipping through hoodies nearby shook his head, looking at Maya with a sneer of pure disbelief. Officer Trent Walker, off-duty in a Panthers tee and jeans, had his badge clipped to his belt like a prop he wanted everyone to notice. Special Forces? He scoffed, loud enough for the neighboring aisles to hear. I've spent 20 years in law enforcement, kid. I've worked alongside plenty of operators. I know who carries the rucks and kicks down doors, and it isn't people who look like your mother. Maya's face burned. The shoppers around them slowed their pace. Whispers started to ripple through the crowd. He hadn't said the words black woman, but the way he spat, people who look like her, vibrated with a prejudice that didn't need a name. Maya tried to steady her breathing, but Officer Walker wasn't finished. He stepped closer, invading her personal space to assert a dominance he hadn't earned. You don't understand real sacrifice, he said, his voice dropping into a patronizing growl. Little girls like you play act at heroes because you like the idea of it. But you don't know what war looks like. You don't know the grit it takes to be elite. The words stung worse than the laughter. Maya might not have been to a battlefield, but she knew a different kind of war. She knew the war of the long silence when the phone didn't ring for 3 weeks. She knew the sacrifice of empty chairs at every birthday, every graduation, and every parents' day at school. She understood service better than this man ever would, because she lived with the cost of it every single day. Lila tugged at her sleeve, her voice trembling. Maya, let's just go. He's not worth it. But Maya felt a heat in her chest that wouldn't let her move. It was the same fire she saw in her mother's eyes before a deployment. My mom doesn't need your approval, she said, her voice shaking but gaining strength with every syllable. She doesn't even know you exist. Walker chuckled, noticing the small crowd of onlookers forming. He looked at the $150 Nikes in Maya's hand. Tell you what, kid, since you're so sure of this fairy tale, if your mother walks through those doors wearing a uniform with a SOCOM patch, I'll buy those sneakers for you right now. But when she shows up in a minivan looking like a regular housewife, you apologize to me for lying. Deal? Deal, Maya whispered, her heart hammering against her ribs. The minutes felt like hours. The store felt frozen, the air thick with the judgment of strangers. Walker leaned against a clothing rack, checking his watch and smirking at a couple of other men who seemed to find the situation amusing. Maya stood rigid, her eyes locked on the sliding glass doors at the front of the store. Then the sound arrived. It wasn't a shout or a grand entrance. It was the rhythmic, unmistakable strike of polished boots on the tile. The sliding doors hissed open, and Sergeant Major Dana Ellis stepped inside. The atmosphere in the store shifted instantly. It wasn't just the uniform. It was the way she carried herself. Shoulders back, chin level, an aura of disciplined power that commanded the room without saying a word. Her camouflage was crisp, and the silver insignia of a sergeant major, the highest rank an enlisted soldier can achieve, glinted under the fluorescent lights. On her shoulder was the spearhead patch of the United States Special Operations Command. Maya saw her and felt a relief so violent it nearly took her breath away. Mom! Dana's eyes, trained to scan for threats, immediately found the cluster in the sneaker aisle. She saw her daughter standing like a statue and a man with a badge leaning over her. She didn't run, she marched. Each step was a statement. "Mom," Maya called again, her voice breaking. Dana stopped beside her daughter, placing a protective hand on Maya's shoulder. She didn't look at the crowd. She looked at the man in the Panthers tee. "Officer," she said, her voice a calm, low-frequency vibration that silenced the aisle. "What is the situation here?" Walker's smirk didn't just fade. It disintegrated. He was a local cop, and he knew enough about the military to recognize that the woman standing in front of him wasn't just in the Army. She was at the top of the food chain. Sergeant Major," Walker stumbled, his posture straightening instinctively. "There was just a misunderstanding. We were just talking about career paths. Just a joke." "A joke?" Dana repeated. She stepped half a pace closer, entering his inner circle. "You've been in uniform 20 years, you said? Then you should know that a sergeant major doesn't have a sense of humor when it comes to her child being harassed. My daughter tells me you made a wager based on my existence." The silence was absolute. Every phone in the vicinity was pointed at them. "You looked at my daughter and decided her mother couldn't possibly be elite," Dana continued, her voice as sharp as a scalpel. "You saw a black woman and assumed a ceiling. I've spent 2 decades in the shadows doing things that allow men like you to sleep soundly. And yet, the hardest fight I have is coming home to a mall in my own country and having to prove I belong." She turned her gaze to his badge. "Does your captain know you spend your off-duty hours bullying 12-year-olds? Walker's face turned a deep, bruised purple. "I didn't mean, I'll pay for the shoes. I'll pay for them." "You're damn right you will," Dana said. "But first, you'll look at her. Not at my rank. Look at the girl you called a liar." Walker hesitated, the weight of 100 eyes pressing down on him. Finally, he turned to Maya. The bravado was gone. "I'm sorry, Maya. You told the truth. Your mother she's the real deal." It was the most difficult thing he had ever had to say. He walked to the register, the crowd parting for him like the Red Sea, and swiped his card for the Nikes. He handed the bag to Maya without meeting her eyes and hurried toward the exit, his head down. The store didn't erupt in cheers, but a slow, respectful applause began near the registers and spread. A veteran in a Vietnam vet's hat walked up to Dana and gave her a sharp salute, which she returned with a crisp snap of her hand. Outside in the cool evening air, the adrenaline finally began to leave Maya's system. "I thought he was going to win," she whispered. Dana stopped by the car and turned Maya to face her. "Listen to me, Maya. You held your ground when the whole room was against you. That is a different kind of special operations. People will spend their whole lives trying to make you feel small because they are afraid of how big you actually are. Never hand them the scissors to cut you down." Maya looked at the bag in her hand, then at the woman who had spent 20 years breaking every ceiling in her way. She wasn't just proud of the new shoes. She was proud of the legacy she was walking in. From the other side of silence, Toss Stories, where real voices rise and truth finds its echo. Like, subscribe, and share this story, because respect costs nothing, but withholding it can leave a scar that never heals.